I think the most important thing about filmmaking is, like, if you think about the time that we're in right now, as an artist, I've realized how we kind of are superheroes, right? Like, sports went down during this time. A lot of other things went down, but streaming services were at an all-time high. You know, you have people like D Nice, who's on Instagram spinning on his records and stuff. So as an artist, I think it's a really powerful job and it's a huge responsibility. And I just choose to share my truths and share the truths of the world through my perspective through film.
All right, everybody, we are back on the Zoo with our very special guest, Nia Miranda, filmmaker, businesswoman, activist, and a whole bunch of other things, I'm sure.
Yes.
Now, we got a lot to talk to you about, but I want to start off with your viral moment. All right, go ahead and set it up for us. What happened?
So, I mean, I'm sure, as we all know, we've had COVID and we were all on quarantine. And one day I'm looking online and I see the brutal murder of George Floyd. And it hit me to my core. I was like, you know, I have to do something. I don't know what to do, but I have to do something. And it was a protest going on, and I'm like, this is it. This was actually my first time out of quarantine, so I hadn't seen anyone in like months. And I'm like, the first time you go out, you're gonna be around thousands of people during a protest. But it was important enough for me to go. And towards the ending, the police came, the rubber bullets, the gas, like everything that you see on the news, it just happened in front of my eyes. And as I was getting away from that situation, I ran into two women who were spraying Black Lives Matter on a Starbucks. And they weren't Black women, and I knew the power of film. And I knew that if I didn't say anything or if I didn't record it, if the news would have got footage of that, they would have been that Black Lives Matters protesters are vandalizing, you know, because that's what the narrative had been. And I'm like, well, no, that's not the truth. Let's go ahead and prove it. And I confronted the ladies, took the video, and I had no clue that it would do what it did. I put the video on my Instagram, I sent it to a couple of my friends, and I went to sleep. The next morning, I woke up, and my Instagram was crazy. I'm talking about hundreds of DMs, tons of follows, likes. I'm like, I called my husband because he was back home in Detroit. I'm like, baby, I think I just went viral. I don't know, but this is kind of like a viral feeling. I think this video is viral. He's like, Nia, no. And then he starts sending me different celebrities who had my video on there. So I think it was a great experience. You know, everyone in the industry wants to be known. I'm just happy that my introduction to the industry really was for something like this, you know?
I'm glad that you did something that shows the protesters are not some of these people that come around thinking that they might be doing something good, or just basically people that are out just to mess around and they're using the opportunity. And it's easy to let the moment get away from you, and it's easy to let your emotions get away from you, but what you did shows the balance, you know, keeping it where it needs to be, right?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. So it really resonated with what you did.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. I went to a protest Juneteenth where we kneeled for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, and that was hard. That's hard.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. Yeah. And just being down there and really allowing that to sit in with someone had their knee on someone's neck for that long. Like, my knee was sore just kneeling on the ground. So the intentional aspect of that is what really just kind of boggles me, because that's difficult to sit down to kneel for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. It's difficult.
I think for me, it's like this emotion where it's like se te enchina la piel, which means that like you get like not just goosebumps, but you know, like you really feel some type of way. So to see, seeing the George Floyd, and of course we've seen other instances and other cases of violence, and sometimes even where you're like, no, people don't act this way, but they do, you know? And it's just like, I saw that thing too where, especially here in Santa Monica, right? And Melrose too, where it's a lot of mom and pops, where like you see people vandalizing, or there's even cases where it was like this woman identified her husband who was a cop that was out there vandalizing.
I remember that one.
And you're like, this doesn't happen, but we're seeing it, right? You know, and so like, how, in that instance, was it your initial reaction to like shoot the video, or like how long was that process? Because to me, I would have been like, you know, like there's so much rage in a moment like that.
Yeah. So what's interesting is it kind of like was set up in a certain type of way. Leading up to the end of the protest, you would see vandalism on these buildings and stickers would be on there saying this was not a Black Lives Matter supporter. And I'm like, well, who's doing this? So I kind of have video recording that, and I was recording, before I ran into those women, I was recording the helicopters above me. Like, why are these helicopters here when it's so peaceful? And it just so happened as I was bringing my camera down, it was like, boom, spray painting, Black Lives Matter. So it just happened organically. Okay. And I just knew the power of film. Like, if you think about it, the reason why we feel so much for that George Floyd's case is because we saw it on film. If you think about Ahmaud Arbery, no one was, you know, thinking about his case until the film came out, and then it changed, you know, the entire narrative. So being a filmmaker and understanding the importance of film, it's like, you know, we can leave it to the news to tell the stories, or we can be on the front lines and show what's really going on and give a more authentic truth to what that narrative is. And I was just happy to be able to do it, because I can't lie, before me going to the protest, I was assuming that, like, well, why are all these peaceful protesters vandalizing things? Like, why are they doing this? And it took me to go out there to see for my own eyes that that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I just watched your video again this morning just to, like, just remind myself of it, because I watched it when it went viral. And yeah, you were powerful, you were calm, and you did everything, like, I mean, not that there's no right or wrong way, but you really did. Like, there was nothing that anyone could have said that you were doing wrong. And I just want to thank you for your emotional labor. I know you've been going, probably there's a lot of support that I'm sure you've been getting, but I know there's a lot of hate. And I guess, what are you doing to protect yourself and to protect your aura and to really just protect your mind from these trolls who I'm sure, you know, have access to your page?
You said the right thing. It's protecting your mind, protecting your aura, your space, and your energy. I'm huge on that. Yeah. You know, I meditate all the time, and just, I set intentions, right? Like, that video, it could have went another way. Like, I've had so many people, well, why didn't you pull their mask off, or why didn't you do this? Like, you know, like, coming from Detroit, Michigan, I could get down if I needed to, but I had to take into consideration that, one, COVID is out, and so even being that close, I still had that in the back of my mind that I can't physically get into anything because I still have to protect myself. I promised my family who isn't here that I would make it home in one piece, you know, and once I've been trolled from, you know, Black people and non-Black people, you know, Black people saying, well, this person, they were trying to help us, so why would you stop them? And I'm like,
what do you say to that?
You know what I say? I said, right now you don't understand the importance of what I did, but I hope that what I did is beneficial for you in the future.
It's beautiful.
Because the truth of the matter is, vandalism, I mean, to some people it can help, you know, that's to each its own, but when it's going to be accused to be someone who looks like me and that wasn't the case, that's just putting additional targets on our back. And if I could take any target off of Black people's backs, that's what I'm going to try to do, because we have enough already. And some people have come around, some people haven't, but, you know, I know my intentions were right. So that's the only thing I worry about. Yeah.
Well, this is a very special moment, and you know, even though there's a lot of division right now in our country, I do see underneath there's a lot of people coming together.
Yes.
And the message is clear that we really do have to have respect for each other, and we got to cross these racial lines and cross these issues, and let's resolve certain things that have been around for hundreds of years. And we don't want silly stuff to take away from that.
Yeah.
We don't want stupidities, really, because really it's just people, you know, kind of like losing their. Sorry. Yeah. So we don't want to take away from the real message, which we need justice and we need to get along, right?
We need unity, we need togetherness, and we need love. Yeah. Ultimately, a major effort that I try to put out every single day is just love, because I believe love can heal and change anything, and sometimes it takes us to be the example in order for other people to really see it.
There's an article that I just pulled up, and it talks about how support over the past couple of months for the protests has dropped, partly because people are kind of like linking up any vandalism that happens to be part of the protest. They're kind of like fusing them together. So that's why definitely what you did, it kind of stems that. You know, maybe that'll start coming back the right way, you know, once people hear stories and voices like you and realize, oh, wait a minute, hold on, no, there are two separate things. And look, the people that are the real protesters, right, so like such as yourself, are not associated with some of these people that are going out, you know, to cause trouble or cause a mess or anything like that. So are you aware of how like the support has gone up and down over the summer, and does that weigh on you?
You know, I believe that narrative that, you know, the protesters are doing the vandalism, that's affecting the support. But also, I think the reason why the support was as big as it was, like, this was an international thing. I got people from Ireland, Switzerland, like all over the world in my DMs just standing in support with us. I think that because of COVID, I say it was a gift and a curse. Because we were in quarantine, we were able to really focus in on what we needed to do, right? And now things are starting to loosen up a little more. Distractions are starting to happen. I mean, sports is back, so, you know, that makes a difference too. So I think that a couple of things is stopping the large amount of support, but ultimately you have people who are in this for the marathon and not the sprint, and yeah.
And you know what else on that, where like support drops because of the vandalism? But I'm like, the cause is still there. Yeah. These people, like, you should not lose the, like, you should not just be like part of the bandwagon per se, right? Of like, I support this cause. Oh wait, there's vandalism.
Well, you know what happens?
Like,
they exploit
myself.
like, you know, you'll get like, you know, certain news outlets exploiting the, you know, the vandalism. So, and then sometimes some people might be like, well, then don't cover it. But then, like, I'm a truth guy. I'm like, I want to know what's going on. So let's hit the problem and not necessarily like look one way or the other. But overall, I do think that people are really, I mean, the George Floyd video showed, yes, there are moments where someone in authority, as like police officer, will do something that you can see is motivated by racism, and you can see is not right, and that could result in the loss of life. Not like just, oh, okay, they had a shitty day. No, somebody died. You know? Yeah.
So true. Someone died. And also, I feel like vandalism is a problem, but when you're comparing the loss of a building to the loss of a life, you know?
And especially these buildings that are billion-dollar companies, like Starbucks is gonna be okay. Like, that wasn't the issue that the girls were vandalizing Starbucks. The issue was that they were now going to be, like you said, the blame was going to be on black men and women now. Like, it was never like, you weren't like, oh, Starbucks is, you know, you're going to hurt that building. Like, that wasn't the message. You're like, you're going to blame me for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. I think people also need to be a little bit radical to the idea that, like, you know, some of these protesters are sent there by powerful white men who don't want this narrative.
There's like agitators.
Oh, yeah.
There are agitators.
Oh,
Since civil rights, since everything. UFW, they had strike breakers. Like, that's just what happens with any civil unrest. And it's like you said, people have to listen to the left, the right, and know that it's somewhere in the middle. Like, it's Fox, CNN, like, it's all, it's a narrative.
Let me ask you, as a black woman, do you feel safer today than you did a year ago on the streets or dealing with cops or anything like that?
No, I don't. I don't feel safer, but what I am happy about is I am more awakened. I know what's going on. Right now is a real interesting time. As a matter of fact, me and my husband just went to San Diego recently, and we went to the beach, and it was a great thing. Like, yay, we're at the beach, putting our toes in the sand. And as we're leaving, a white guy came up to us and asked us what were we doing there.
What?
Like, this was last weekend. What were we doing there? We don't have any rights to be there. Very aggressive. I'm like, are you serious? Like, it was one of those, is this happening to me, right? I'm like, okay. My husband's like, Nia, just get in the car. We're gonna just leave. And he just kept agitating. I'm gonna show you how I get down. Just crazy things. And the most interesting thing, no words that we said would make him leave. But as soon as I reached down and picked my phone up and pulled my phone like this, his eyes got so big and he started to run. And I'm like, wow. So now at this point, our only form of protection, at this point, it's really not just the police, but it's our phones. Like, who would have thought that a phone would make somebody run off like that?
Well, you know what? This is what I'm afraid of, though. I'm afraid of that the real racists are using this moment to, God, what's the word?
Commoditize?
Well, yeah, they feel almost liberated to be racist.
They do.
Like, okay, if we're in a war, you know, I get to just
buck wild.
Where maybe he would have held back at another time, but there's something about what's going on right now where he feels it's okay that you know a real racist is going to confuse, you know, everything that's going on with, okay, any black person must be against me and I'm against them, and it's just, that's so sad. San Diego is a little more of a conservative town. If any town in California that might have happened, I would have said San Diego.
And I was in La Jolla.
But that's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
But like, that's what you're saying is right. So it's like we're pulling out all the shots now, because in our minds, it's us against you, right? And so any opportunity we have, we're gonna make that known. And that's the reason why I don't feel safer, because I understand that people are using this opportunity to really come out.
Okay, but do you think, just being like spiritual, right? Do you think that all this stuff is finally coming to the surface, and that's why it's so hectic this year, because we're gonna get over this?
Yes.
Or is this just like, nah, it's always gonna be like this?
I'm such a hopeful person. I'm extremely optimistic. I think that it has to get really ugly before it gets beautiful again, but that's with so much things in life. Like, you know, fall happens, the trees, you know, die away, but then come spring, they're beautiful again. And I believe that we'll eventually get to that beautiful place again.
That you've had experiences with cops, and you know, do you feel it's gonna get better? Or, because I keep on thinking, well, cops are gonna be nicer after this, but then you see videos, you're like, no, they're not learning. Like,
I can be a little bit more pessimistic sometimes, but just the fact that you're like, I'm hopeful, I'm like, man, I need to be hopeful too. Like, and I think it is easy to start, because it's right there. It's like, man, they're recorded. Like, in these big protests in New York, where these cops are on camera just pushing a man on the street. Like, they're on camera and they clearly don't care. Like, and I do believe that things can change, but I really think that it's going to have to take with what the people in the Black Lives Movement are asking for. It's going to take restructuring the police system. It's going to take defunding them, and that's what's really, it's going to, because we can't just go in there and just be like, oh, you're a bad apple, like, let's get you out of here. We have to completely rebuild it. And as long as this stuff starts not getting in the media and starts not getting like the cool thing to do anymore, we're just taking steps back. And I think it's good that we are still having these conversations. Like, you weren't just a viral moment. Like, you are, it's months later and you are still this strong, powerful woman, you know, doing what you're doing. But I think that I need to be hopeful, just like you said. Like,
we're hopeful in the Zoom. So you're a filmmaker, a businesswoman. You're from Detroit, Michigan. I like that little accent you got. I love Detroit because my friends were like DJs, and I'm from Miami, and they do a lot of electronic music, and a lot of people don't understand. Techno was invented by black people in Detroit.
Yes,
right?
That's so true. It's a huge underground techno community in Detroit that a lot of people don't know about. Like, it's like house music and stuff. Like, I grew up to techno.
Well, that's. I mean, people don't understand that in the early '80s it was Derek May, Kevin Saunderson, and Juan Atkins, three African Americans, who started what we understand to be techno. So I just want to give that credit. But let's get back to you a little bit. You're a filmmaker. How'd you get into filmmaking? What are some of the projects you want to talk to us about?
Yes, I'm a filmmaker. I've been in that like train of thought or entertainment or as an artist my entire life. Like, I started acting and singing at 3 years old. As soon as I could get a camera in my hand, I would be using it to just document. And I think the most important thing about filmmaking is, like, if you think about the time that we're in right now, as an artist, I've realized how we kind of are superheroes, right? Like, sports went down during this time. A lot of other things went down, but streaming services were at an all-time high. You know, you have people like D Nice, who's on Instagram spinning on his records and stuff. So as an artist, I think it's a really powerful job, and it's a huge responsibility. And I just choose to share my truths and share the truths of the world through my perspective through film.
I just thought it was so cool that you call yourself an artivist.
Artivist,
and I guess, outside of your filmmaking that is obviously very real and very, has very important subjects and is very powerful, do you have any like projects that you have in mind that are a little bit more like fun, a little bit like, you know, like any stories you want to share that are a little bit?
I have one project that I'm working on that is like, so all of my projects have something to do with something that needs to be moved forward or something that needs to bring broad attention to. So like, I have a whole marijuana series that I'm writing. I'm really excited about that. That's gonna be extremely dope, no pun intended. But that I have something like, I'm a kick-ass, oh, can I say ass on here? I'm sorry. Okay, cool. I'm a kick-ass woman, right? And so I have this series called The Player Slayer. And it's about a woman just using her intellect as well as her, you know, seduction to get these people who are in high places doing inappropriate things, lure them, and then slay them.
Nice.
Amazing.
You gotta be book smart and street smart.
You have to be, right? And I feel like women, as women, we are. We have so many different layers, and they're not always, you know, promoted. But in the Player Slayer, you're gonna be able to see all of
That's
them.
amazing.
I love it.
How'd you get to LA from Detroit?
So I wanted to come out here my entire life, right? And it's like I was in Detroit acting, and I felt like a big fish in a very small pond. I was able to get a lot of opportunity, but the opportunity wasn't actually catapulting me anywhere. So I was like, you know, I was in a film. I ended up getting cut from a film in Detroit. Oh my gosh, I'd never been fired before, right? Just broke my heart. And I said, well, if I can get cut here, I can go get cut on Steven Spielberg in LA. Like, let's go to the big dogs. And I made my transition within 30 days, and I moved out here.
That's awesome.
And it's been great.
Damn, talk about taking big steps.
I know.
Wait, so let's talk about your production company, right?
Yes.
Because you touched on the subject a little bit, which is love, right?
Yes.
But the production company is called Bringing Back Love?
Bringing love back.
Bringing Love Back.
Yeah.
Okay, so why did you choose that name?
It started as a podcast that me and my husband did. He was my boyfriend at the time. And it was like bringing love back. We just want to bring love back to all things, to food, to music, to health. Like, you can bring love back to anything. And it kind of grew. Our followers like followed us as we got married. They were all like tuning in when we got married. And
How cute.
it was really fun.
I would have tuned in.
It was fun. And I just noticed that in our community, in the Black community specifically, we have to infuse it with love and unity and togetherness so that we can be seen in that light by everyone else. And I started with my own community, you know, and then branched off to other people because love is contagious. And I think that if you try to make that be the thing that brings us together, then it will. Yeah. So I love love. It feels good. It makes you just feel good, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it releases chemicals.
it does. It does. Just giving love, giving a compliment, staying in gratitude on a daily basis, it makes me feel better. And during a time where society is crazy and chaotic, you want to just feel good.
Hell yeah.
But you know what's interesting? Some people can't even take compliments.
That's so
like
true.
a subtle form of love. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to give you some love. Like,
It's
yeah.
oh no, it's like, I haven't
Like,
taken a shower in a
whoa.
week. You're like, whoa, I just said your hair looks nice.
Right. And that's
Maybe
like
that's why
too
it's nice.
intimate. And it's
Sometimes
too
too much
intimate.
shampoo is
Right.
amazing.
That's true.
I saw something in your release that was really powerful. I just wanted to hear more about it. It said that your ultimate goal was to fulfill your ancestors' agenda.
Absolutely.
I just think that is like so powerful. And I guess what does that mean to you?
Well, you know, I have to understand on whose shoulders I stand on, right? And I have to understand the history of how I've even gotten to be in a position here to sit on this, you know, beautiful stage with you all and have this conversation. I cannot be remiss to the fact that people put in work, blood, sweat, and tears, literally. And I believe that there is an agenda that they were creating a long time ago that is still needed today. The fact that we're still talking about racial issues in 2020, that this is something that isn't new. And I think that it's my responsibility to push that forward. What's so interesting is the day of the protest, I was so intentional with everything I did. Like what I was wearing, what pen, my goggles, my sanitizer, just everything. And I remember getting in the shower and just kind of like speaking to my ancestors, like, listen, you guys, this is really y'all lane. Like, this is what you all did protesting, but I want to make sure that I honor you all and what you've done as I go out here and protect me and lead me however that is seen. And the fact that it ended up being a viral video with an afro, I'm like, okay, I was doing the right thing.
And you're taking it into your film and stuff.
And I'm taking it into my film. So it was a part of purpose. It was aligned.
You have Africa around your necklace there?
I
Have
do.
you ever been?
I haven't, but I'm Nigerian.
Ooh.
And my father, he's Igbo, and what I've been committing to this quarantine season is learning the language. I'm huge with trying to be like that bridge between Africa and Africans in America. I think that if we knew our history, we would be even more rich. Like, I love the Latino community. The fact that you all are so cultural and you know your history and you know where you come from, the food and the music and the everything, it's just inspiring. And I want us to be able to have that same thing.
Do you have plans to visit Nigeria at some point?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I have plans to visit Nigeria too.
Do you?
Do you know why?
Why?
So I'm Cuban, and so I did my ancestry report, and I do know that I have a great-great-grandparent who's Creole, who's half black, half European, and so I have 4 to 5% West African Nigerian. So might not show, but I want to go get in touch with that 4%
Yes.
and visit Nigeria one day for sure.
I actually have I have another project that I'm working on that's similar to that, where you're finding out your ancestry, finding where you're from, and then you're getting a like mentor to teach you about that, going over to visit those places, learning the culture, the language, the food, and everything, just so you can learn more about yourself.
Hell yeah.
The fact you sometimes have to go to college to take classes on your ancestry, like I know African American studies is one thing in college, like ethnic studies is another for us Latinos, but it's like, why wait until then? So I think being an artivist is the correct word for that, you know, bringing it to light via art.
You are the ultimate artivist. Thank you for coming, by the way. Nia Miranda, where can people follow you on social media?
You can follow me at Nia_Miranda.com. No, well, at Nia_Miranda. But you can go to my website, bringingloveback.com.
Awesome. And you got the Miranda going, so you're already incorporating some Latino in your life. Thanks for being here. And you guys keep it locked. Watch us at LATV and follow us at LATV Network across the social media platforms. Till next time. Peace.